What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real Talk Ravens podcast. My name is Tyler Keene.
And I am Michael Kruger, and we welcome you on this Monday after an awesome victory over the Bengals.
Oh, yeah. That was one of my favorite wins in recent history. Just the fact that we were able to get revenge on the Bengals after.
In dominant fashion.
Yeah, and the score does not reflect how that game went. We dominated that game from start to finish. If it weren't for a freaking punt return, it would have been a 2-score game.
And, that punt return is kind of controversial to begin with. So we don't know. They might not have ever gotten back into that game. The offense controlled that game the way we wanted it to. We had no major injuries. Odell seems like he's going to be okay. We got good Marcus Williams news, really good Marcus Williams news. Replacements played really well. Geno Stone kicked ass. The O-line was great. We got a lot to talk about. So, Tyler, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, so first off, let's talk the injuries. So we know during the game, Odell came out at halftime with what looked to be like a sprained ankle. So They said, I think that was just the fact that we didn't really need him. We had Nelson Aguilar going off. So, we have such depth. We have such depth at receiver right now. So I think if it was a more important game, like as far as like toward the playoffs and stuff like that, I think Odell would have stuck it out and toughed it out. But
he tried to play a few more downs. He did.
Yeah, but he realized he couldn't go full speed, and I think that was probably why he chose to do that. And then the other injury was Odafe Owe. Not really sure what happened with him. Harbaugh's keeping it close to the vest. Oh, is it a shoulder injury?
I don't know for certain. I think I heard that. So
it had to happen pretty early in the game because he only played 14 snaps total. So I think he got hurt pretty early, but from what it sounds like, it's not serious. Harbaugh said if it were serious, he would tell us, but he's trying to keep it close to the vest so that he doesn't give away anything to the Colts or whoever we play next. But then the other big announcement, like you said, Mike, was Marcus Williams, that Harbaugh said he is not going to be going on the IR. He chose not to get the surgery to his torn pec, right?
Partially torn, right?
Yeah, his partially torn pec. So that means he's going to start the rehab process. We're not really sure how long it's going to be. It could be a couple weeks, but could be maybe 4 or 5.
I'd say we get him back probably week 10 because he'll rehab for about 6 weeks and then he'll want to get back to game speed. And after what we saw from Geno Stone yesterday, I think we're in good hands as long as he can avoid injury.
Yep. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, just initially reacting to this, was the fact that the Bengals went 0-2, not just 0-2 to start the season, but 0-2 to start the season versus both divisional opponents.
Right.
They brought that stat up on ESPN last night, and it said, since 2002, no team has started 0-2 versus divisional opponents and made the playoffs. Just saying. But
it's happened quite a few times.
Yeah, it was like around 10 times that's happened, and no one's actually made the playoffs. Yeah. Like I said, I think the score was much closer than that game reflected. I think we definitely dominated, and it was just a matter of us finishing it out at the end. Right now, us and the Dolphins are the only 2-0 teams in the AFC. Now, that's prior to the game tonight. We're filming prior to the Monday night game of the Steelers versus the Browns. If the Browns win, they would join us as the third team. But this will probably be the first time I'll say it. Go Steelers.
Yeah. I think the Steelers will probably get the kick tonight, but I might have said differently the other night, but I think the Browns were a little rusty last week, but they look good. And the Bengals, they played well towards the end of our game, so I could see the Browns having a good night,
Yeah, for sure. So I think that wraps up the initial reactions. Let's go ahead and just start with the offense. How do you feel about that offense performance yesterday?
Good, but not great. It did its purpose, which was to stay on the field for long periods of time, move the ball, and end up scoring. I think what we had, what was it? 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns yesterday.
Yeah, so the final was 27-24. So we had 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals.
2 field goals, yeah. Because we had the missed field goal and then 2 more. Okay, yeah.
Right. Could have had an extra field goal. Normally,
right.
Tucker in mid-season form's making that, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think it was just a weird kick. Whatever. He missed it. It was 59 yards. You can't kill him for that.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, it achieved its goal in killing clock and scoring. Lamar Jackson looked way better than he did last week. He still had his moments where he had a couple mistakes, fumble. Could have had a pick. That would have been like a pick 6, but whoever was there was not close enough to the ball.
Yeah,
but overall played really well.
Here's our stats from yesterday. So we got Lamar went 24 for 33, 237, 2 touchdowns, no picks. How about that? No sacks. 0 sacks yesterday with 2 brand new offensive linemen starting. That is crazy. That was definitely one of our biggest concerns coming into the game was McCary and then Mustafa starting at center, taking over for Ronnie Stanley and Linderbaum. That was just, to me, that was my biggest concern, I thought. But then they really proved that they are definitely capable. Then going forward, we got rushing-wise, Gus Edwards, 10 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown. That's 6 yards per carry, 6.2.
Lamar Jackson with 54 yards.
Yep. Lamar Jackson definitely was more involved in the run game yesterday. They had a few more designed runs to him, which I kind of predicted was going to happen for us to be so successful offensively against this good of a team. I thought we were going to have to run him. So that was pretty cool. And then Justice Hill had his 11 carries for 41 yards. We also got Duvernay involved with some jet sweeps. He had like 3 of those for 15 yards. So 5 yards of carry is pretty good. And then I think we got Flowers on 1 for 1 for 6 yards. So we had 178 yards total rushing.
Look at that. Nelson Aguilar with the most receiving yards.
Yeah. So you got Aguilar with 5 catches for 63.
Not really even close because Zay Flowers got most of his on that 1 reception.
Yeah. Flowers had a 52-yard catch. And then the 3 other catches that he caught were pretty much all screen type passes for a total of 10 more yards. So it was pretty much all on 1 catch.
Love seeing it, though. I mean, you don't see that very often with the Ravens. I was thinking after he caught that, holy crap, we actually have a wide receiver.
When is the last time we completed a pass that far? Like just that wasn't to a receiver that was wide open.
Unless it was like against a really bad team. Yeah, where they're like wide open. He was in coverage.
He had a guy right on his back. He had to catch that contested. I mean, we haven't had that happen since Anquan Bolden, I think, or maybe Steve Smith. Those are the last 2 I can think of that we can rely on. But yeah, besides Mark Andrews is a tight end. I don't include him.
We're talking wide receiver.
Just pure wide receiver. So that was pretty cool. Odell, obviously, he had 3 catches for 29 yards. Mark Andrews was 5 for 45, and he had a really nice touchdown where he kind of freaking put his Mandrew strength on show for everybody, reaching that ball on the 3rd and goal. And Bateman had a quiet day, 3 for 18. Hill had a few little short passes, 3 for 12. Likely had one in the very first drive again, 1 for 8. For whatever reason, we like to throw it to him on the first drive.
Yeah.
And then Duvernay.
Probably just to throw people off, honestly.
Yeah, Duvernay had his chances. He had 3 targets. One of them was almost an incredible touchdown catch.
Yeah.
And the other one got reviewed. He initially got called complete, I think, and they reviewed it and overruled it.
It was a very clear not catch, but
yeah. But how about this? Last week we had 2 fumbles. This week we have 0. That's huge. And yeah, that's pretty much our offensive stats. So what do you take away from me? Right? The biggest thing I take away is from the stats and just overall, Nelson Aguilar is pretty good. And then the other thing was we got big plays when we needed them offensively, whether it was Zay Flowers on the huge post Gus Edwards on all those short yardage situations just to seal the game off.
Mark Andrews on that 2nd and 21 or 2nd and 23 with that 21-yard gain that set us up for a Gus Edwards first down.
Yep. And then Lamar just using his legs. He did a really good job of getting the first downs with his legs. And that was, like I said, he needs to do that and continue to, do it without getting hit.
And look at that. When he runs, he doesn't get sacked.
Yeah, because people are scared of him running. Right. They're not gonna send as much pressure, because if you get past that first line,
Lamar needs to take advantage of.
Yeah, if he gets past that first line of defense on a blitz.
There was that one play where he was gone for like 40 yards, but it got called back.
Yeah, that was a bullcrap call. The holding.
Yeah, it was. The other
defensive lineman just fell to the ground, and just because he fell, they called a holding. They gave us one with the Odell Beckham. So to me, the refs were pretty bad yesterday.
Yeah, but we knew Hockey Lee was going to be bad. We looked at that the pregame.
Yep.
We hate him. I hate him.
I will say I think he called it bad both ways.
He did. It was just a bad performance by the referee.
Yeah. To me, besides Lamar, non-quarterback wise, Nelson Aguilar, player of the game.
I don't think so. I think Kyle Hamilton was the player of the game.
Well, offense. I'm talking offense.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll talk about Kyle Hamilton in a minute.
Okay. Yeah. So to me, that was who my player of the game was offensively. Non-court. Of course, Lamar is probably always going to get player of the game if we win.
Right.
The things that I really like to see with the offense was we just looked so much more in sync this week than we did last week. Monken had a much better game plan, it seemed like, for dealing with that defense. We had a career low 9.1% pressure rate for Lamar. Career low.
Answer me a couple of questions, Tyler.
Yeah.
What have Ravens fans been saying about Lamar Jackson for like the last 3 years? We've been saying that he can throw. He's just in a bad scheme. When you see 2 games into this new scheme, he can throw. How crazy was it to see us throwing the ball on 1st and 2nd down, completing it for more than 8 yards multiple times? When Odell was playing, he was clicking. That whole thing was working. I mean, we looked legitimately like some of the offenses that the news is always gawking over, like the Chargers or the Cowboys or, the Jets before Aaron Rodgers goes down. Like, we legitimately were moving the ball like the teams that everyone loves. We were doing something that I've rarely seen us do since Flacco, which is move the ball consistently through the air.
And I can't emphasize this enough. We did this with 2 new offensive linemen starting.
Right.
I mean,
including one being the center, which is arguably the second most important position in the game.
And they were our 2 best offensive linemen.
Right.
Lamar was just so much more decisive with his throws. He was on time. There wasn't really a time that he looked like he was lost. In week 1, he looked like his head was just spinning a little bit. Things were flying, bullets were flying at him like he was kind of like a rookie, but it was more so just because he was in a brand new offense for the first time with a real live defense coming at him. But this week, he looked like he's been poised in this freaking offense for the last year and a half. I mean, they told us last week on ESPN, I think it was Hasselbeck or Orlovsky, said it's going to take him 6 weeks to really fully understand this offense and look comfortable. Well, he proved him wrong.
If he looks this good in week 2, and that's true, then imagine how good he'll look in week 6.
Yeah, I mean, he just got the ball out so quickly. I was saying to you guys during the game how Burrow was getting rid of the ball quickly. That's what makes in this league, if your offensive linemen, aren't going to block for 3-4 seconds every single play, if you can get the ball out quickly.
Right. Especially when you're playing the Bengals defensive line, like it's unrealistic to expect them to be able to block for 4 seconds every down.
Yeah. The other thing I really liked was the fact, like I said, Lamar had his designed runs in the game plan. That was nice to see.
It was really nice.
offensively, we just dominated the time of possession. We had 33 minutes of time of possession to theirs 27. So we almost outweighed them by 6 whole minutes.
Earlier in the game, it looked like we would have dominated it even more. We just kind of
because the first half, our defense, or first quarter, had 2 straight 3-and-outs.
Right. Our defense balled out. They got a little tired late, and it led to some mistakes and led to some touchdowns. And I don't know if we would have won if Joe Burrow got the ball back. But you know what? He didn't, because our offense did what it hasn't been able to do in the past, which is close out a game. We have all of these historic comebacks against us last year. Why? Because our defense is always on the field late. They're always gassed. Well, not today, or not yesterday, because our offense did its job.
They did. Yeah, were there any negatives that you saw from the offense? Because it's hard to find any.
Holding. There was that one holding.
Penalties.
Penalties, I would say, just altogether. We did look a lot better. We didn't have any false starts or illegal formations or anything like that.
Yeah, the pre-snap penalties. The pre-snap penalties went away, seemed like.
Yeah, it was mostly just holding, and that I can understand to a point. I think I would say just, I guess, maybe making the catches a little better. I mean, I can't really give many critiques for the offense. I mean, there were a couple of drops, but there were also crazy drops. Like Duvernay, Lamar put that in the perfect spot where only he could catch it, but unfortunately, it was just such a crazy catch he would have had to make anyway,
Yeah.
But he did drop it, and then we did have a few drops. So I guess I would say drops, but really, and maybe just at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, that one drive we had where we had to punt, it kind of seemed like we were doing what we did a lot last year, where we just kind of cooled down on offense and got way too conservative. But we corrected it in the next drive.
My only critique, I would say, from yesterday's game was when we would have Justice Hill in at running back on the goal line instead of Gus Edwards. To me, I know Justice Hill did a good job last week finding the end zone on the goal line, but in short yardage goal line situations, you want your biggest running back that's the strongest running back that's going to break those arm tackles, break one tackle, and get into the end zone.
It could be just that he's been upgraded to RB2.
Yeah, I'm just saying situationally.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
That was my only critique. I mean, if that's my worst critique, that we had a pretty good game.
Yeah. I will say, though, Gus did get a touchdown. So
he did, and he got multiple 3rd and 1 conversions.
I hope our year looks like that.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you say we talk about the defense for a little bit?
Yes. So my key takeaways from the defense. First things first, let's go ahead and bring up these stats again for just looking at the defense.
Yeah.
All right. So Joe Burrow, 27 for 41, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack for 6 yards. All right. So then rushing, Mixon, 13 carries for 59 yards, no touchdowns. Burrow 1 for 5, Chase Brown 1 for 2. So they had a measly 66 yards rushing on 15 carries.
Yeah, that's obvious. The difference between our yards and their yards is an obvious clue to why we won.
Over 100 yards rushing.
Over 100 more yards.
Yeah. And then receiving, their definitely player of the game for them was T. Higgins at 8 catches, 89 yards with 2 touchdowns.
He burned us a couple times. He had a push off, but it was a weak one. It still should have been a touchdown. But he definitely showed why the Bengals are making a mistake for not re-signing him.
I mean, it's going to be hard no matter what team you are when you have Joe Burrow.
I get it. I understand, but I also understand from his standpoint, he's going to want to show off so that the next team he goes to pays him,
Yeah, definitely. He definitely did a good job of auditioning for his next team.
Maybe if we don't have Odell next year, he can be a Raven.
I don't think. I mean, maybe.
I don't think we could afford it, but
no, yeah. But anyways, T. Higgins I think we focused primarily on Jamar Chase, and
which we did a good job of.
We did a really good job of. He had 5 catches for 31 yards on 8 targets. So to me, that's a job well done. Anytime you hold him under 50 yards in a game, that
Rocky with an amazing interception or touchdown saving deflection or punch out, really, on Jamar Chase.
Who?
Rocky Yassin.
Oh,
remember
yeah.
When,
Rocky Yassin had a great play.
That punch out in the end zone.
And it caused them to go and kick a field goal instead of
and that was against Jamar Chase, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
That Rockison finally got in this week after being injured last week, really, and he showed his worth. Great signing. To me, definitely showed why we chose him over Marcus Peters.
Right. I don't think Marcus Peters has done much of anything in Vegas, especially after seeing their scoreline yesterday.
Yeah, that was pretty bad defensively for them.
Yeah.
But other than that, they didn't really do much offensively.
Kyle Hamilton won us the game in retrospect with that tackle. It was like a hit to the legs of their tight end, and he went down. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. He got kind of lucky because he didn't get a big piece of him, but he got enough.
No, but he saved a touchdown with that, and then he was just all over the place.
Yeah, if Hamilton doesnn't make that tackle, we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to go score on offense again.
Yeah.
So, that was a pretty big play. I can't remember
if they ended up scoring on that drive or not,
but I think it's undoubtable that Geno Stone had the defensive play of the game with the interception.
Oh yeah, and our buddy Palmer's like, why the hell didn't he run for the touchdown? Everyone's thinking that, of course, but you don't let that take away from the greatness of the play.
Yeah, and I actually saw the wide copy of that play up on social media, and it didn't really look as easy of a run back for a touchdown as it looked like on the TV copy. He had a couple of guys inside of him. Even if he cut it back, he was going to have to run away from some people, and he was definitely tired. Yeah, that was the end of the drive, right? That was the end of that long drive. And then he had to run it.
Because he could have hurt himself if he tried to do something crazy.
Yeah, but regardless, he stopped them from scoring a touchdown. Whether or not we
scored on that drive too.
Yeah, and we score. So that was the turning point in the game for me.
When is the last time our defense has caused a turnover and then we've scored on it? And it was still on our side of the 40.
Yeah, we always like to let our defense turn the ball over and then go 3 and out.
Yeah, this is a different team than it's been over the last couple of years. And it's showing what a competent offense makes this team really look like. Because I think the subs stepping up is more a schematic thing. I think we just have a really good level of depth and a really good scheme offensively and defensively. So it's easy for those players to adapt and fit right in. But also now that it's working on both ends, the potential of this team just keeps growing. You got to remember it's only week 2, but it's okay to be excited about this team. I know we both are.
Yep.
By the way, teams to be excited about. Our Orioles clinched the wild card yesterday with a win over the Rays.
It's a great day to be a Baltimore sports fan. That's all I have to say. First time we're in the preseason since 2014? So
15, I think.
15, but either way, that our team's looking good. Well, let's go make a run for this World Series.
We have a huge series against the Astros coming up.
That's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, but anyway, looking at the defensive snaps too, real quick, it looks like Rock Ya-Sin still only played 42% of the snaps on defense. So he's still not fully all in. Darby played the other 58%. So those two just alternated pretty much.
Is it that, or are we just liking someone else more?
It's hard for me to say that because every time I saw Rock Ya-Sin yesterday, he was pretty good. He was all over his guy.
Pretty rock solid.
I mean, right now, Brandon Stevens played 100% of the snaps. And as much as you people hate on Brandon Stevens, guess what? He was guarding Jamar Chase most of the day, and Jamar Chase had 5 catches for
31
yards. So as much as he gets hated on, I don't care if he catches 5-yard passes. Brandon Stevens did not give up the big play. So I'm good with that.
He did a really, really good job. Like I said, schematically, I think this team is a really strong team.
That's the mantra of our defense right now through the first 2 weeks. Our defense is a bend but not break defense. We're going to make them work for everything that they get offensively. If they're going to drive it down the field, they're going to have to drive it 15 plays and make them make a mistake. And yesterday, the Bengals made mistakes. Week 1, the Texans made mistakes. Yes, everyone's going to make mistakes offensively if you give them that opportunity. You're not going to give them that big play.
And guess who didn't make mistakes yesterday? The team that won.
Yep. It's the name of the game. So, yeah, Rock Ya-Sin, I think, is going to increase. See, last week he played like 10 plays. This week he's at 40%. So I'm going to say next week he's closer to 70%.
Yeah, probably. Especially with the way he's been playing. All right. I think now we should direct our attention to the rest of the AFC North and then preview our next episode.
Yeah, so AFC North, obviously we are filming prior to the Monday night game between Cleveland and Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. We already previewed this game on our last episode. I believe you chose Cleveland and I chose Pittsburgh. As it looks right now, Cleveland is favored by 2 points in the bookie. And
I feel like it could be close.
So one thing to note with Pittsburgh that just came out today after they had to set their final lineups prior to the game, Deontay Johnson got placed on the IR for 4 weeks, which means when we play them in week 5, he will not be there.
That's crazy. And that's good for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So they still, and they're not going to have Hayward.
And no Hayward.
So Pickens has to step.
Look, I know it's the Steelers, but I know the feeling and it sucks. We all know
we're still feeling it. We still have the injuries. So
we still have it. We just stepped up.
We have a deeper roster. That's the difference.
Yeah. I think that's probably why the Steelers lose tonight, honestly.
Like the biggest thing that they have going for them to me is the fact that their head coach is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is going to have them ready to go. And so I think at least I'm still rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go and win that game tonight, put Deshaun Watson on his back a few times, and then we will have the sole lead for the AFC North as the only 2-0 team in the AFC North, which would be beautiful.
Guys, think about this. We take care of business at home next Sunday. All right? We're 3-0. Doesn't matter what the rest of the division is. We're 3-0. And then we go into Cleveland. Either we're both 3-0, or they're 1-2, or they're 2-1. And we kick their ass in their turf. We're 2-0 in the division, on the road both games, with the sole leadership of our division, probably the lead of the AFC because we're 2-0 in the division. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but the stakes are high. It's a tough division, and we got to take these road division games, and that's what we did this week. We put ourselves in the position to be one of the best teams in the AFC this year.
Yeah, I could tell you this. The perennial AFC leaders are not looking too hot starting off. You got Cincinnati.
The Chiefs look like a joke.
You got the Chiefs who can only score 10 points a game. You got the Bengals who are 0-2. You got the Bills who they beat a Raiders team. I'm not going to give them too much credit. They lost to the Jets.
You can't. I mean, Josh Allen bounced back in a pretty big way after a rough week in week 1, which is good for his psyche. I mean, as we talked about last week, he's got a lot going on, so he needed that. And I think for the Bills, that's bigger than just 1-1. That's like, okay, we're good. Let's go.
And Jacksonville drops one that they probably should have won. They should have beat Kansas City.
They should have, and they didn't. And that's the frustrating thing about Kansas City is even when they're bad, like schematically, they still find ways to win games because they're just that well coached.
If you keep them in the game, Mahomes will be Mahomes.
Right.
It's what it is. But anyways, who else in the AFC?
Chargers lost to the Titans.
The Chargers are 0-2.
That's crazy. The Broncos are 0-2. They had a last-minute Hail Mary and then didn't get the 2-point conversion, so they lost to the Commanders, who came back from down 21-3. Good for the Commanders being 2-0. They're tied with the Cowboys and the Eagles for that division. The Giants saved themselves from a horrible start to the season. But Saquon Barkley sprained his ankle and could be out a few games. So that's trade-off for coming back against the worst team in the league. It sucks. I'm sorry, Giants fans. I personally love Wink Martindale, but I think at this point he might be coaching for his job because he has not looked good. The defense has not looked good in New York. Anyone else in the AFC? Oh, the Jets lost. The Dolphins won.
The Dolphins are probably between us and them are the top two best looking teams so far in the AFC from what I've seen. Now,
I would
Cleveland has a chance to put themselves in that conversation tonight, but after yesterday, through 2 games being played, I would say it's been between us and Miami for the AFC.
Speaking of tonight, the Saints have a chance to make a statement as well.
They need to, and they should.
Let's say the Saints. Because look, the Titans just beat the Chargers, and they beat the Titans last week. They go into is it in Charlotte tonight or is it in New Orleans?
New Orleans.
They come in and they play New Orleans or they play Carolina tonight, and they put the pedal to the metal and they beat them like 48-17 or something like that. They will have a clear, just mental advantage over even the Falcons, who looked good yesterday. And they will, in my mind, look like the best team in that division. But if they win like a 15-13 or like a 12-9 or something really weird, or they lose, then I'll probably start to think that they're the same old Saints.
Yep. But let's go ahead and wrap this thing up here. All right. We are going to be back later on this week with our preview of week 3 playing the Indianapolis Colts. But for now, please just go ahead and give us a like, give us a subscribe, maybe a little follow on Spotify or any other podcast app that you're listening to. So, yeah, we're going to be signing out.
We are only on Spotify right now and YouTube, but we can apply, and we're going to try and apply to be on a couple other podcasting platforms. So TBD for the rest.
Yep. Stay tuned.